everyone, today we will be discussing about terrariums. What are terrariums? A terrarium, also called glass garden, margin case, or vivarium enclosure with glass slides and sometimes a glass top, arranged for keeping plants or terrestrial or semi-terrestrial animals indoors. The purpose may be decoration, scientific observation, or plant or animal propagation. How does a terrarium work? Terrariums fall into two different categories, open and closed. A closed terrarium creates an isolated ecosystem within a sealable, transparent container, and plants within a closed terrarium will have everything they need to survive. Soil provides nutrients for the plants. These nutrients are constantly recycled as plants grow, taking up nutrients from the soil and then die, returning them to the soil. Water within the terrarium sustains the plants by creating a miniature water cycle. Both the plants and soil in the terrarium release moisture and water vapor. This condenses against the walls of the terrarium and falls back into the soil to be used again. The cycle of moisture rising and falling is much like our own ecosystem. Moisture rising during the day when temperatures are warmer and falling at night when the temperature cools. When this water vapor touches the cooler surface of the inner side of the terrarium, it will lose heat and condense to form water droplets, which will then rain back into the soil due to gravity. The air is trapped in the terrarium when you seal the opening. The plants will use the carbon dioxide and light during the day to produce oxygen and food through photosynthesis. Then at night, they use oxygen and produce carbon dioxide. Simultaneously, the plants will absorb the carbon dioxide they release in the night, and with the presence of sunlight, they photosynthesize, and this cycle repeats again and again. The only thing that needs added to a terrarium is light for photosynthesis to let the plants grow. Terrariums need indirect sunlight, which provides plenty of light and also warmth for plants. Direct sunlight is normally too intense, as the glass walls magnify the light and trap too much heat due to the greenhouse effect of a terrarium. The layers of terrarium. First is the drainage layer. The ideal material for drainage is small pebbles, gravel, or sand. All materials are porous, so they won't retain any moisture. Without proper drainage, the roots of the plants may rot, damaging or killing them. Next is the charcoal layer.
I inserted a mesh in between to separate the rocks from the charcoal.
It's there to help keep the air clean by removing the odors and toxins, especially in closed terrariums. The lid is always on the terrarium, and odors build up inside from mold, mildew, decomposing soil, and from the plants themselves. The air needs to be purified so the plants have a healthy environment to grow in. Next is the soil layer. The life of the plants. Soil is rich in organic matter that is fit for nurturing the growth of plants. What materials did you use? Why did you use such materials? Broad, even-shaped containers like cubes, spheres, fish tanks, and margin cases are best. I used a fish bowl because we had one available. It is transparent and spacious, which made it so easy for me to manipulate the things inside, unlike using glass bottles. Nearly all terrariums are made out of glass. This allows light in, but also traps moisture released by the plants. What factors did you consider in choosing the plants or animals or living organisms in general that you place in your biosphere in a bottle? I consider the availability of plants that we have here at home.
Pillias are one of the best plant of choice for closed terrariums due to their small size and their need for high humidity, while bamboo and Vietnam rose need little watering and low maintenance.
I selected the insects that love to do decomposing to balance the nutrients present in the soil. As the plant loses some leaves, they are broken down by bacteria and become nutrients in the soil. They'll happily go to work breaking down any dead or decaying matter, transforming it from a potentially deadly terrarium hazard to a wonderfully new source of nutrients. Plus, they'll even help aerate their substrate, keeping your plants happy and improving drainage. What insights did you learn as you were observing your setup for 5 days? I have learned that terrariums are self-nourishing, which is why they require little maintenance, if sealed.
As independent as they are, everything that they need are inside their own little space.
A terrarium is a closed environment of living things that can show us how an ecosystem works. A good terrarium is a fully functional micro-ecosystem. I have also realized that an ecosystem isn't defined by its size or complexity. It's defined as a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment, and that goes for the plants in my terrarium.
As you can see, unlike day 1, in day 2, small traces of transpiration and condensation formed on the glass surface. In day 3, obvious traces of transpiration and condensation formed on the glass surface. There were evident formation of bigger droplets. In day 4, still obvious traces of transpiration and condensation formed on the glass surface, and there were evident formation of bigger droplets on the lid cover. And in day 5, obvious traces of transpiration and condensation still continued to form, and evident formation of bigger droplets on the lid cover and surface are pulled down like rainfall by gravity.
What makes a true ecosystem is the ability of its inhabitants and their environment to work together to support the system, which composed of series of finely tuned life cycles and energy transfers that will make or break the system. My closed terrarium ecosystem replicated a variety of natural processes that allowed it to feed, clean, and restore itself.